Boom, 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 boom. Hello, Chess and Wine. This is Eddie. Oh, yeah. All right, for updates today, the chess community is unhappy with the way the AICC was handled in this year, that is the African Individuals Chess Championships. And also, there may be hope for South African chess community as FIDE appoints a reverse delegate again. They did before, and obviously didn't come up with any tangible outcome resolutions from that on. But let's just go back to the chess community and how we are displeased with the fact that the African Individual Chess Championships has happened, but we couldn't follow the events online. We couldn't watch the games live as they happen and be part of the action and obviously root for the players that are taking part in there. We know there was the number one player in Africa, Asim Basim, top rated, but I don't think he's number one anymore because he's been unseated from the African Individual Chess Champion. He's no longer the champion. There is a new champion, and that is Adam Fauzi. I mean, South Africans are very familiar with Adam Fauzi. He's played at a lot of our online events. I mean, he's played in my online events and won a couple of times, a lot of first prizes, but at least he was able to impart some of his skills to the players that he competed with in those events, and we're happy with that. So we're happy that he won. He also won the South African, the Cape Town Masters Challenge this year in January. We featured him. We featured his picture here in one of the episodes that we filmed. So yes, Adam Fauzi is the new champion, but still, we couldn't follow his games live. We couldn't follow Grandmaster Kenny Solomon's games live because there were no DGT boards for live transmission in an African, in the biggest, it's meant to be the most important event in Africa, which is supposed to involve the African Chess Confederation and obviously the zone leadership, but then obviously FIDE is also a part of it. But how come? Why was it treated like my backdoor tournaments that happen in the rural communities where we're playing with foldable vinyl chessboards? My goodness, this is so strange. I mean, I wonder what the budget for that event was. Jeez, maybe there was no budget because I had some players complaining about the Wi-Fi as well. I was in communication with one of the chess players from South Africa. We were WhatsApping and chatting, and she's like, "Send me a picture of something," and I'm sending the picture, and it's like, it's still loading. It hasn't arrived. The Wi-Fi in the space is very slow. You won't believe it. And then later on, we hear on Twitter, on social media, that there are some chess players from other countries who are complaining about the conditions in the hotels that they were staying in for the event. Goodness, there was just a whole lot going on in that event. And one thing that was so funny is that I go into I'm trying to follow the games, right? So I go into GM Kenny Solomon's games after the games. This is South African, right? Obviously, he's fielded as ACC player there. So I'm just going in there to check who he lost from, who he played against. I mean, he came out, I think, 7th place in that field. I mean, only Grandmaster. So I'm checking and I find that in an African Individual Chess Championship, not in an Egyptian Open tournament, not in an Egyptian closed tournament or whatever, out of the 9 games he played, 8 of them were against Egyptian players. Strange. And then I go back and I look at the number 1 player. Oh yes, the second runner-up. That is Grandmaster Bilal as well. I think it's from Algeria. And I'm looking at to see how many Egyptian players he played or who he played. I mean, did he get to play all the other the federations that were represented? And I find that he only played 2 other African federations. All 7 other players were Egyptian players. Like, how does that happen? Because, I mean, from our understanding of this event is that players need to qualify to, it's the top players from each country that get the shot to play at the African Individual Chess Championship. That's what I believe. I mean, it's obviously the highest competition in the land, and obviously the winners in that event get to play in the World Cup. They get the rights to play in the World Cup. The Chess World Cup. So in order to play there, it mustn't just be any other random player that can afford it shouldn't be like that. So what? I go back and I check how many players were there in total, especially in the open section, and I find that the open section had 72 players, or was it 71? I don't remember. But out of that 72 players, 42 of them are Egyptians. My goodness. 42, 43 players from Egypt. One federation fielding so many players in a continental event. How does that happen? That is so strange. So yeah, I also looked at the women's section and I see that out of the 32 players taking part in the women's section, 14 of them are from Egypt. So this was actually an Egyptian event. There was not an African confederation African event taking place in Egypt. It was as if it was an Egyptian event and all the other players were just invited to come be a part of our event like they did with the Kenya Chess Open, one of the biggest, the most lucrative event that has ever happened in the continent thus far. So we saw that it made sense that most of the players were from Kenya because it's a Kenya Open, it's a Kenyan Open, right? Like we have the same issue in Egypt, like in an African individual chess championship. Like how does that was weird. So it just got me scratching my head and I don't believe it. I don't understand it. But wow, yeah, maybe those who know will let us know. How come? Like I know that there's players with titles that get rights. So now I'm wondering, because Egypt has the most title players, did they get very the top 20 seats already taken because of their title players? Because I know the players that are representing South Africa, that came from South Africa, they have got those playing rights as title players. Like that's Grandmaster Solomon. I think he qualified because of his title. There's who else? Women International Master. Actually, Women Grandmaster Elect. What's her name? Jessie February. She qualified because of her titles, the rights. She's got the rights to the event. There's also Anzal Lobenshaw. I don't remember how that surname is pronounced, but Lobster or something. She's also a Women International Master, so by that right, she qualifies to play. And Calvin, was it? Yes. Wait, was it Calvin? Classic. Yes. I think, yes, he's what do you call it? Yes, come. The zone 4.5 chess champion. So that's why he qualified. So most of the players that were meant to be representing South Africa qualified by right. And there was a few of them. But even they went to play and they were not representing South Africa. They were fielded as AICC, African Chess Confederation, because South Africa is sort of banned, but not quite banned, but sort of banned because it's not quite clear, because there is no clear statement that is stating that South Africa is banned, but yet they can't field our players as South Africans and show our flag there, but they're not quite banned, but somewhat banned, and that's why they're... Yeah, so it's strange. But I mean, I think that's coming to an end. We will forgive it for this time and look to the future and see what happens. We know that SASCOC has already acted on the matter, and now it seems that FIDE is also deciding to act on the issue of Chess South Africa, and that is why they've appointed a reverse delegate by the name of Mr. Lekani Adeyemi, the Nigerian, who happens to be the FIDE vice president as well. So he's a vice president to be in the big office of FIDE, and he's appointed to deal with the matter of South Africa, Chess South Africa. And maybe suggest a resolution, say something. Somebody suggested that the best resolution will be just to remove Hendrik and his cohorts, remove Mr. Mahomule Joe and his cohorts, and then obviously see things come anew in South Africa, give it a fresh start. If that'll be possible. Obviously that'll require Deloitte to decide to step aside, not run for president, not run for office or anything, and Mahomule to do the same. But obviously Mahomule is willing. Apparently that's what he used to say, like in one of the groups that he created, that I'm willing, I'm ready to just step aside. That's why me and my team are not going to challenge the next court judgment. And they didn't. And he set aside and he allowed it to stand. It stood. But still, South African players, South African community, South African leadership were not happy with the judgment being the one that places Hendrik Deloitte at the helm of Chess South Africa. And obviously, there's been a lot of friction since then. Cheek check, going back and forth. And yeah, somehow he's not succumbing, but the powers beyond him, above him, are forcing him out. Like, you can't lead people that don't want to be led by you. You can't lead people you don't want to get along with. You can't lead people that you've decided to suspend for no reason, and you can't lead people that you point fingers to their heads like that. They're leaders also in their own rights. They are meant to be the ones that put you where you are. So yeah, it's all been that. And now a reverse delegate was appointed by FIDE like 9-10 months ago again, last year, which was Ian Wilkinson, I think. Yes, Mr. Ian Wilkinson, who was, I think he was also a FIDE vice president at the time or something. He came, he looked at the issue, probably decided this is too much for me, and decided to go back home without saying a word, without telling South Africans that, yo, your mess is just too much for me, bye-bye, but he just left. So we didn't hear anything until that one time that we had a WhatsApp group and Mr. Legani, the EME, told us that FIDE is on top of this, we're dealing with this, we're looking into it, we will help you. Only FIDE to resolve, for FIDE to resolve later that, hey, we're going to send this one. But maybe, obviously, we haven't received, official communication is not out yet. So that's just now, again, some of those communication that just come out of the streets, the walls of WhatsApp groups, you know, the African Chess News. It's news, it's in the African Chess News. So we're sharing it with you so that we know that at least something is brewing from this, something is coming from this. If there's truth to this, if this is a fact, we'll wait for that letter that comes from FIDE that says to South African Chess Council, this is the reverse delegate that you're meant to deal with. He'll be overseeing your elections and ensuring that you move smoothly to the next phase of South African chess and live together in peace. Our new CODESA commission, in a way, but maybe it's not. But we'll see what it comes to be. But anyway, this is it for you today. It's just a little bit of update, like you see, keeping you up to date, like what's happening with what we're knowing, because I mean things will pile up. Like, hey, we've got a hot interview lined up with some controversial figure around chess in South Africa, and we're going to share this with you very soon. So I might be posting another video in 3 or 4 days, very soon, after we've had this interview. But yeah, this is it from me for tonight. Peace and love. Keep watching. This is Chess and Wine, even though there's no wine again. But chess, you know it, you get it. It's still chess. So much just love. Chess, go.